Welcome back, everybody. We got ourselves a Arteezy Carry Tiny replay. And the reason why I want to watch Carry Tiny is, first off, I'm seeing it pretty prevalent in my higher tier pubs. You'll probably see it a lot in TI. But I looked through his history. He plays a lot of Tiny, and they're almost all wins. Win, 1 loss. So 5-1, 6-1, 7-1. So I mean, he's doing really well with it. And this is a really bad game for Tiny. Tide is super annoying because Tiny is 100% base damage. The damage he gets from Grow is base damage, so the Anchor Smash reduction is pretty crippling. Lifestealer is a hero you usually can't do enough damage to burst, and then he eventually wins the long battle against you. Heroes like Necrophos punish super high tanky heroes like Tiny, where like usually they invest a lot of damage into killing you, and then you barely live, and Necro never lets that happen. And then Pangolier is just continuous disable. Another good way to deal with tanky heroes. So this actually looks like a really bad Tiny game to me. But we're gonna find out exactly like what he's doing in lane, I think, to make this work, as well as his game plan. So let's check it out. I have not played a single game of Carry Tiny this patch, but I have seen it a lot, so I should probably just start picking it up myself. So let's check it out.
Banana slam jam.
So he's totally willing to throw his tree for the last hit on the range. A lot of defensive creep aggro when he doesn't have the tree. That makes sense because you're pretty weak without the tree. He's not having a good lane so far. I mean, I told you the Tide matchup's pretty bad, but he is supported by Bulba, so everything's gonna be okay. So he ferries himself a bit more regen. That was it. That was all he flew himself, and he's gonna go for the immediate boots. Like I said in my jug video, people are just going ground boots super early on carries nowadays. A lot of these offlane combos are like double slow, double stun, slow into stun, and positioning seems really important right now. So maybe if you're not dealing with the same heroes at your bracket, you won't need to go early boots. As I say that, as I talk about it, he actually just queues up the Glove of Haste as a component of his treads. He starts with lower than normal attack speed, and then he loses attack speed from Grow, so I don't really see an alternative. I don't think phase boots are viable. I don't think you can skip treads. Uses Avalanche to secure the range creep there. What's his skill build? Is it the 1-1-4? So this is a lane where he either wants to just chill and farm, or he's going to go all in on kills, and he's going to go like 4-1-1. But he's going to chill on the farm department. Okay. So I think after this, I'm going to check really quickly and see like what his skill build is. You know what? Let's stop right now and see. So he's clearly going to max tree this game. Let's see what he does in all of his games so we know. In this game, he maxed tree. This game, he actually... Oh, he was mid this game. Okay. Never mind on that one. What about this game? He was carry with IO, and he maxed Avalanche. He put 3 points in it for the lane, and then afterwards went back for tree. So it looks like because he had a mana steroid, he's willing to play the laning presence game. So I imagine if you have like IO or Keeper of the Light, you would be down to max out Avalanche. In this game, he was carry. But his build this game was to go for a Blink Dagger. And he also has a pretty heavy kill lane with the Grimstroke. And he's also against a bunch of squishies. Morph needs to get bursted, Quap, and Nature's Prophet. So it looks like very versatile on the skill build. So it's kind of like, do you want to play a chill trade farm lane, or are we going for like the all-out aggression because we have like a Grimstroke or Mana Steroid, or it's just a hero that trades well against you, like a Nature's Prophet or a Queen of Pain, where you need to kill them if you want to win the lane. So against a Tide who doesn't really kill you, you kind of just like sustain, which makes sense. And he's utilizing his extra little bit of damage in tandem with the immense amount of damage from his support Silencer. First item, treads. So it looks like his Avalanche usage is almost purely for securing CS, which it's pretty good for, not because of its damage, but because the tree grab can be used for damage, and then the Avalanche itself prevents the opponent from denying. So that's kind of cool. That's when he's using Avalanche. Really paying attention to when players use their skills and for what purpose in lane is like a super great way to learn a new hero for yourselves, guys. That's why I'm focusing on that. So Echo Saber seems like the play. In the past, like when Carry Tiny had unlimited tree grab or whatever, you definitely went the Mask of Madness, but I think because you only have 5 charges anyways, I don't think attack speed's all that great. You'd rather have a little bit of damage and like mana to work with, and that's exactly what Echo Saber gives you. Yeah, he's actually getting chased out of lane despite the fact that he won his lane theoretically. Like he's 2-0, pretty good CS. This is what I meant by like kind of a bad Tiny game, right? He's getting chased around the map. He doesn't feel like he can confront the Tide. He doesn't feel like he can confront the Necrophos. And notice how he doesn't want to confront the Tide, so the second he gets back to lane and Tide's not here, he just pushes and gets out. I have emphasized this so much in my coaching sessions about avoiding inefficient interaction. And so he has immediately said, I don't want to face this guy. And the only reason he's facing him here is because there's a double stacked hard camp there. Probably just going to defensively aggro. Yep. Avoiding Tide at all costs other than having to interact with him for CS if need be. And then he's probably just going to leave and farm small camp. Play away from the Tide. He might try to snipe the large camp, or he can just go to the medium. Either one's fine, looks like he's choosing the medium. The enemy team is missing. I don't see Necrophos and I don't see Lion. So that's probably why he chose the more conservative route. He gives himself a tumbler toy. That's fascinating. I guess the mana's pretty dope on Tiny, but maybe a little bit of gap close will go a long way as well. And he turns this into a kill mid. Interesting. So the thing about Tiny is he's probably pretty similar to a lot of these like early mid-game carries where he's totally down to do what you're seeing here. Where you aren't in the best lane, where you like trade the best, like Tide's farming pretty well, and you're totally willing to be a +1 to ganks. You know, he didn't do like a ton of damage there, but he was definitely an integral part of getting that kill on Necro. Okay, so we've got the Echo Saber. Seems like everybody I've watched has gone Echo Saber. And it seems like the only decision from here is Shadowblade or Blink. I think Blink is better if you're against mobile, squishy guys, while Shadowblade is good against stationary, durable guys. And if you look at Necrophos, Lifestealer, and Tide, I think that kind of tells you exactly which one would be correct here. And he's going to go for the Shadowblade. Putting a lot of pressure on the tower. Tree Grab does do a shit ton of tower damage. In case you guys did not know, it does do extra damage to towers. I guess he also knew Necro didn't have Scythe. It's hard for me to keep up when I'm fast forwarding. I don't think he would have done that play if Necro had his ult. So I said it was a bad Tiny game, which means if he tries to like just farm lanes casually, he's countered in a lot of ways. So what he's doing is forcing reactions by putting a little bit of pressure on mid tower consistently. And then anytime the opponent reacts, he gets out and farms. Similar to the Luna game we watched with 23 Savage, not 23 Savage, sorry. The Luna game we watched with Ame yesterday. Probably a pretty decent ancient farmer. Don't really want to do it early on, I imagine, but once you get Echo Saber plus maybe one other item, you feel pretty good about it. The Tree Grab Toss does do 200% damage on cleave. So every time you guys are farming, make sure you toss the tree on the last attack. It's still the same damage to the primary target, but if you're farming, it's especially important. I see him kind of like playing like a 2, even though he's a carry. You know, like all the dirty jobs in the game, pressuring mid-tower, defending mid-tower, ganking, all that kind of stuff, he's taken care of. And then he's got Koifa mid-sniper, who's like more of like the carry role in the game in regards to like he's playing greedier and for farm and stuff, you know. So he's very active. I think as carry Tiny, if you're looking to just like AFK farm, it might not be the best way to play. I'd imagine until you get Shard, you don't really farm fast enough to warrant just never showing up to fights. And you also just do so much damage compared to other carries. He already hits for 240 damage at 15 minutes into the game, that you probably feel mighty good contributing to these fights. Notice that he's consistently fighting, pressuring towers, And then the second the fight breaks apart, he farms for like a minute or two. Seems like rinse and repeat. The same thing over and over. He sees a fight going on top. He's going to pressure the tower bottom. Okay, there's a carry here, so he's going to get out. Once again, his matchups on the map are really bad. He can't just casually lane against Lifestealer. He can't casually lane against Necro. And so he's playing this like very evasive style. He seems to really like Fey Grenade. Is 20 movement speed really that great? I'd never take Fey Grenade. We saw him do it in the Jug game as well. I guess with Tiny, it's probably pretty good just because your base damage is so high. So when you toss the Fey Grenade active, it's actually a pretty good amount of damage. Maybe I'm underestimating Fey Grenade. And also you can toss people to the target because you can see them. So every time the opponent's not reacting, they do something. He pushes mid. He forces Roche. And it hasn't always worked out. Quickfoot actually had to buy back here. But it seems like his game plan remains constant. Huge kill on Necro there. So a lot of carries are traditionally like happy with the map just being farmed on both sides. But it seems like on Tiny, that's not the case. It seems like you want the other carry, like this Lifestealer, to feel the need to participate in the game. Because you're probably one of the best heroes to do so in the carry role. So it's not a matter of like how good your hero is at contributing. It's the fact that if you contribute to fights, the other carry most likely doesn't have the luxury to just AFK farm. And you'll probably contribute more to the fights than he does. So he does go Shard immediately at 20 minutes. This was a question. For me, the Shard is like a Battle Fury. I mean, it's even better, I think. So he does go for the Shard. It's even better because it costs 1,400 gold rather than 4,400 or whatever. So it looks like he's pretty eager to finish this. The Roche wasn't an attempt at Roche. It was forcing the opponent to react, which I'm really noticing when players are in bad matchups or like a rough game. This is what they do. It's like he's #1 net worth, right? So you may think he's like in a really good game for Tiny, but this isn't a good Tiny game. We talked about it at the start of the game. Like, the game is, he's up by 2k with 10 kills. I imagine this is a first pick Tiny that got hard countered. I don't think you have to be 10-0 on Tiny to have a decent shot. I think it's just because he's also against a bunch of counters. So consistently forcing reactions elsewhere. And then TPing to fights. Back to bottom he goes. Does a shit ton of tower damage. Definitely needs a BKB. Until Lifestealer gets a Basher, he can always TP out. He does almost have Basher, though. But he also just needs it to be able to fight, because all of their damage is magical for the most part, because he has 24 armor built in from Grow. They made Grow reduce your attack speed by less, so late game Tiny definitely feels a lot better. And since Silver Edge gives attack speed and the crit for how much damage he has, it's such a nice build-up for this hero. Even the games that Arteezy went Blink, he also went Shadowblade in most of them at some point. So now, with the Shadowblade, he looks like he plays off map. I think the thing about Tiny is he just always has to get the jump. He's a hero that, if he gets gone on, it feels so bad. But if you initiate with your Shadowblade, you just, like, kill somebody full to 0. So notice how, like, off map he's playing. You know, what percentage of the time is he showing his hero in lanes? What percentage of the time is he vulnerable? And the only time he's really showing in lanes is to quickly clear the wave after waiting in the trees for information. Or in this case, the enemy shows and he's immediately going to push bottom. This is the kind of stuff that I don't do well enough that I think is really important on any hero that does a lot of tower damage and can struggle in team fights until certain items. So notice how he pushed bottom, forced a Lion back, I think, and then got his BKB. And the second he got his BKB, he showed up to the fight. Quakefoot would approve of this. I think he did approve because he's literally in this game. And there we go. What talents did he take? He took the movement speed over the strength. Fascinating. Tiny definitely has movement issues. So I guess that's why he's prioritizing the Fey Grenade. He also took the Tree Grab unit bonus damage. Definitely makes sense. It's, what, at this stage in the game, 45 damage on cleave as well. And then he took status resistance. Definitely the carry talents. No matter how farmed he is, it feels like he still gets chewed through by Lifestealer. Super late BKB usage. Is willing to use it to preserve the Aegis, interestingly enough. So despite how farmed he is, it's still really hard to fight into this lineup. And you're seeing it in the way he plays, right? Like, he's recognizing that he can't fight directly most of the game. Consistently playing off map. I just keep emphasizing that so much. Being a complete nuisance when it comes to just split push pressure and all that jazz. Does he die here? Oh my god, they didn't have detection. Well, I think they had a sentry, but he just BKB'd and ran really fast. So it's hard to keep up with him there. They had already used dust on him when he was alive the first time. Very fortunate escape for him there. So what are his options? Like Satanic. I mean, like AC, Butterfly. These feel like carry items. Oh, he's going Blink Dagger. So he's like really embracing the fact that he cannot fight them. So like the two approaches when you feel like you can't fight people is to buy some like man up item that allows you to fight them. And I think that's usually the better route if possible. But like for me, I'm kind of like fiddling. I'm like, what item allows him to like man fight? And I wasn't really sure. And by him going Blink, he's literally saying there is no item. So if that's the case, where there is no item where you feel like you can actually stand your ground and fight, you definitely all in the idea that you need to get the jump on people. You need to have the favorable map movements. You need to be pressuring and dodging ganks and all that kind of stuff. And now look at his neutral item. I think Spider Leg's probably the best item if you're lacking movement speed on any hero in the game or just mobility in general. So it makes sense that he wants the Spider Legs. I like how he always winds through the trees in order to hit towers. That's kind of cool. He never walks like straight down the lane. He prioritizes Titan Sliver though. I'm surprised, honestly. I think the Spider Legs might be better. Maybe the Titan Sliver is just too much damage because you have so much base damage as Tiny. So he's like consistently lingering around buildings. We saw it bottom earlier. We saw it mid just now. We saw it top now. Like, he is all about this. This is what he's all about. Oh, gets found though. Ha! Dude, this is so obnoxious, dude. Then he has BKB TPs. So BKB has a lot of purposes. This is a farming pick-off BKB. Yes, it contributes to fights, but if you've noticed his BKB usage in fights, it doesn't really feel good. It's not because he's bad, it's because, like, even if he's BKB'd, he's getting hit by Lifestealer and getting bashed, and he doesn't do all that much damage to AoE targets here. Look, it almost feels like he's, like, stealing from the opponent every time he farms, right? Like, he's like, up, yoink, and then run. He's not like, I'm controlling this area. You know, it's like, oh, you're running here, I'm gonna get out. We saw the same thing on Ame when he was Luna. Yeah, this is so obnoxious. He's playing like Anti-Mage, honestly. Anti-Mage with a cancelable Blink Dagger. Oh, they were ready for it this time, though. He does get caught, and he is going to go down. So this is a good example of, like, if you're in a really bad Tiny game, this is how you would play. If you were in a good Tiny game, I think you would just walk down lanes and kill buildings with the Aegis, right? Because you do so much damage. So usually in bad games, you're going to attempt to do what you would want to do in a good game, but like indirectly, you know, where you're avoiding the opponent and all that kind of stuff. So we can infer what he would want to do in a good Tiny game. I've played a decent amount of Tiny myself, just not this patch and not as a carry. The hero definitely struggles against like team fight damage mitigation. The hero lacks sustain damage during fights. He gets controlled kind of easily, and then when he's dealing with heroes like Tide, they kind of just prevent him from really killing anybody. He flourishes when the opponent is forced to split up, and he can just kill you full to zero. So the games become relatively chaotic. He's no longer the top net worth in the game. It's not like it's a free game. And he elects to go for Sanjin Yasha, which out of all of like the survivability items in the entire game, it really fits his narrative here, right? Because it gives him movement speed. It gives him status resistance against all these like annoying disables. So he just wants to run around the fights, you know. Let's talk about this target priority. So he sees Lion and immediately jumps him. A little bit of a buggy interaction here. And he just straight up, like, one-shotted that Pangolier. Ouch. Yeah, status resistance just seems so powerful. He's got the Titan Sliver, he's got the talent, and he's also got the Sanj and Yasha, so... Even these dusts last, like, half as long. Which dusts are pretty much required to catch him because he's pretty fast now. Especially when he's in Shadow Blade. He's pretty freaking fast. So where does he go from here? You know, I feel like you probably drop the Echo Saber. You need boots. You might go boots of travel over treads, but the treads seem really nice because of how little attack speed this hero has. I'm really noticing the use of the trees. I hope you guys have noticed it too. He finishes the creep wave, and like 80 to 90% of the time, he spends his time in the trees waiting for the next creep wave. He's not like Anti-Mage blinking from camp to camp. You know, he's like clear a wave and then look for kills and play off map. That's the difference, right? Because a hero like Anti-Mage can survivably farm and also doesn't represent solo kill threat most of the time. So that's a hero that instead of blinking into the trees will just blink from camp to camp looking to flash farm. While Tiny, on the other hand, will blink into the trees. So he actually gets caught there going for a kill. Looks like he thought he had enough damage, but he just didn't. Net worth is bugged because he opened the scoreboard. Stupid bugs. So he's actually down by 7k net worth, but the team is still winning in terms of net worth. But I'm seeing the side lanes get played a lot. Usually when you're playing evasively, you are almost exclusively playing the side lanes. There's just a lot more cover, a lot more awkward pathing for you that the opponent has to be monitoring, I guess you could say, trying to hunt you down. I'm surprised he went on the Pangolier there, knowing that he was infested, but worked out. Every fight that they've won has started with somebody on the enemy team dying. Oh, he's got the Wraith King Ags. Oh, that Wraith King Ags actually did some serious work. So it seems like Tiny carry is best with a carry-esque mid laner. So Sniper in this case, I would say Tinker. And what I really mean by carry-esque is they play a bit greedier early. And then I think Tiny's biggest issue is sustain damage. He has like a lot of burst and that's it. So I think Tinker and Sniper are probably the best, now that I think about it. They're backliners that benefit from his front line. They have sustained damage over the course of a fight, which makes up for what Tiny lacks. Maybe Zeus, but the problem with Zeus is hero seems kind of bad right now, but maybe Zeus. It's also a hero that's like 100% magic damage. That's countered by the same damage reduction as Tiny. Sniper's predominantly physical, and Tinker has pure damage from laser. Game's still super awkward. They haven't gotten a single lane of racks. I gotta refresh the net worth again. Ah! That's very funny. The way Lotus interaction works with toss. If you toss somebody onto a target, whoever you targeted, if they're Lotused, they'll get tossed back. Because the toss is targeted at that guy, so then it targets at the guy that tossed them. I'd say Lotus in general is pretty bad against Tiny for that reason. You're giving him a free toss into your team, basically a pledge hook. And when they win one fight, they're going to get a ton of building damage because he's Tiny. I like the evasive pathing there. A lot of people would have just ran straight backwards and died. That was really cool. Seems like carry Tiny takes a little bit of creativity, or maybe a lot, depending on your own perspective. But you definitely can't just show on map. You can't just walk through off common ward spots. You can't retreat backwards directly. Very little things that are saving him throughout the course of the game. It's like, yes, he still died 4 times, but imagine how many more times he would have died this game. And I genuinely think on a scale of 1 out of 10, this is like a 1 Tiny game. Like, this feels really bad to play against those 5 heroes. So it really shows like how well he's adjusting to Tiny's bad matchups. So it looks like he's happy to get Ags from Roche, but otherwise doesn't really want it. Cheese, definitely pretty good when you have this much HP. How are they going to close out the game is the question. So he BKBs right off the start and just straight up murders the Tide. He's going to probably disengage now. Cheeses preemptively. I like that because he would just get necroscythed if he let himself get any lower. Really good preemptive cheese there. And that was a sick debate from him plus the silencer. And that should be game. Definitely want to try out Carry Tiny. Like I said, it's being picked a lot in my games. So hopefully you guys learned something from this replay review. I'm going to be trying it out myself. Thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, comment, donate, even though it's not possible on YouTube. Thanks for watching, guys.